Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, kind of a little bit of a different video. I am going to be predicting the downfall of every current UFC champion. Kind of getting on my bedtime MMA type shit. I don't know if this is a video that people have done before. I just sort of was, I don't know. I was thinking about this. Like, a lot of the champs right now could very well lose their next fights or the fights following. Like, I don't feel like, aside from maybe one or two fighters, which we'll get into as the video goes on, I really don't feel like there are many UFC champions that are going to go on these crazy dominant reigns. I mean, I could see them getting the title back, but I don't see these crazy long title runs. But yeah, let's just jump right into the video here, guys. Starting off with the flyweight division, current champ Joshua Van previously ended up beating Tatsuro Taira in an absolute barn burner, round 5 TKO. I mean, this really could go, I feel like, two different ways, right? And I feel like it depends who gets the next shot at the title. I think, I guess I'm going to break down the two different avenues here, the two different ways that this could go. He could end up fighting Manel Kape because he is the rightful number one contender, just coming off a great knockout win of Brandon Royval. I think it was a round 1 knockout. And then he beat, what is the fighter's name? The Gooch. Horiguchi. The Gooch was loose. Manel Kape, after getting, kind of, I don't want to say smudged, but kind of being, I guess, a little dominated, ended up getting knocked out by Manel Kape in the third round, I want to say. So, honestly, and I'm a big fan of Joshua Van, I could certainly see Joshua Van getting knocked out by Manel Kape, or maybe losing a decision. It's really hard to say. Or Pantoja comes back, and I mean, I know Joshua Van had a lot of success against Tatsuro Taira in the wrestling, but Pantoja's wrestling is just on a different level, and I think if there's not a freak injury that happens, I kind of see Pantoja either winning a relatively dominant decision or getting the submission. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance. I mean, this one's really hard to say, to really lock in here on a decision. Here, I'm gonna go with what I definitively think is going to happen. I just wanted to give you guys the general breakdown of what way could go. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Joshua Van and Manel Kape are going to fight. I think Joshua Van is going to win 48-47 decision against him. And then, let's say 4 to 6 months later, he has some time off because it was, just general damage, recovery, and everything. He's a champ. He doesn't need to, immediately come right back. I think 4 to 6 months later, we see Pantoja Van 2, the rematch. And I think Alexandre, however you want to pronounce it, Pantoja is going to go in there and he's going to get a round 2 submission. I think he gets his belt back. I think the first round is relatively competitive. Van initially is able to sort of stop the takedowns or get back up, but then once Pantoja can keep him down and do work, he's able to submit him and reclaim his belt. So, final prediction for the flyweight division, Alexandre Pantoja submits Joshua Van in round 2, and I think that's going to happen like early 2027 if I had to assume. Now, they could give Pantoja the shot before Kape. It just really depends. Like, obviously we don't know how that's going to go and we don't have any official news, but I feel like Manel Kape going to have a relatively quick turnaround. He's going to fight Van, and then about 4 months later, we're going to see Pantoja reclaim the belt early 2027, late 2026. But hey, next champion, Peter Yan, the current bantamweight champion. The first fight here, I feel like, is pretty obvious. I feel like Merab and Jan need to have their rematch. Like, as much as I don't get me wrong, I would love to see Sean O'Malley jump that. Like, I feel like it would be very entertaining to see that in a 5-round fight. But I think that it's hard to say, right? And I mean, this is kind of a hard video to really predict, but this is just kind of how I think these are going to go. So let me know if you guys agree down below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think Merab, Peter, 2, or there'll be 3, their third fight, the trilogy. I think Jan is going to win that. I think Sean O'Malley's going to get the next shot, right? Because Umar is going to be fighting soon already, I think, right? Sean O'Malley, you know, he's kind of the golden goose of the UFC. He is able to sit and get a shot. He's on a 2-win streak now. You know, their first fight was pretty competitive despite Sean winning, and a lot of people think he might have lost that fight. I do think he won that fight, but that's neither here nor there. So how I think this is going to go is I think Peter Yan is going to beat Merab in the trilogy. I think he's going to rematch Sean O'Malley, and I think Peter Yan is going to beat Sean O'Malley in their rematch. I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I just think, you know, the takedown threat that Yan has and his striking skills on the feet have only gotten better over time, and Sean O'Malley is also looking great as of late. But I think Jan is going to squeak out the decision this time. It being 5 rounds really benefits him compared to Sean O'Malley, I think. And then I think by that time, and I hate to say it, but I think Umar Nurmagomedov, by that time, when everything's said and done, is going to get the fight against Jan. It's going to be a fresh matchup. And as much as I hate it, I think Umar is going to beat him by a decision. The wrestling is just on another level compared. Like, I mean, Jan's wrestling is great. He's able to nullify Merab's wrestling. Like, that's not an easy feat. But we've seen that Umar and Merab were very competitive. And it's really hard to say, but I just have this gut feeling. You know, I really do feel like Umar is going to eventually be champ. These guys, the Nurmagomedovs, it just happens. Like, it's just how they are. And it didn't happen before against Merab, but I don't think Umar is going to have to fight Merab again. I think he's going to be fighting Jan for the title. Same kind of timeline. Probably a little later, I'll say like 4 months into 2027, maybe halfway through 2027, we see Umar versus Jan. I mean, kind of hard to predict for sure, because I'm literally predicting like a year ahead of time and 2 different fight outcomes. But I think Umar is going to be Jan's downfall, I guess is what I'm saying. If Umar was not in this division, right, let's say in some world he was in flyweight or he was in featherweight, I could see Jan holding this belt for a long time. You know, I think he beats Sean in a 5-rounder. I think he's going to be able to beat Merab now that he has the style figured out, as long as he's healthy going into the fight. I think he beats Song Yadong. He beats Figgy. And I think he beats a lot of these up-and-coming guys as well in the bantamweight division. Yeah, I mean, like, the guys in the top 5, I think Umar is really the only one that could beat Jan. And that's not coming from a biased opinion, because I do not fucking like Umar at all. I don't like the Nurmagomedovs. I do like Islam, but these days I'm kind of liking him less and less. But yeah, I think Umar is going to defeat Peter Yan by, we'll say 50-45, a relatively dominant decision. I don't see him getting the finish. But yeah, I think that's how the bantamweight division will go here over the next year time. Next division, featherweight, the 145 champion, the fucking GOAT, Alexander Volkanovski. Now, this is one of the 2 guys, really, to me, that I see kind of get to, I don't know, ride off into the sunset, so to speak, right? And it mainly comes down to the fact that I don't think Volk has many fights left in him. You know, It really depends on who gets booked and what happens, because we don't really have anything definitive yet. It seems like it's going to be Movsar Evloev, who I think Alexander Volkanovski beats. We've seen Volk deal with a wrestler, a better wrestler, more dominant strikers. I just don't know what Evloev. I'm just going to say Evloev because apparently I can't fucking pronounce his first name. I said it the first time and now I can't again. Basically, how I think it's going to go is I think Volk is going to defeat Evloev. And then it really just depends, because I could see Volk having that as last fight, him retiring. This is like the good ending. Volk retires after this on top. And then it's like you have Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez 2 for the belt. Or Gene Silva versus Lerone Murphy for the belt. But let's say Volk stays in there right after this. I think more than likely we're going to see him against Lerone Murphy after most Evloev. I can't fucking pronounce that right now, apparently. My bad. Holy shit. Some of these Russian names are just fucked to me. I feel like if Volk ends up fighting Lerone Murphy, he's going to beat him as well. Like, Lerone, yes, he's a good technical striker, but Volk is just a better striker and better wrestler all around, right? And so, due to that, I really could see him riding off into the sunset. But, and here's the thing, right? If they book Volk against Gene Silva, I really hate to say it, but I just think with how wild he is and how hard he punches, I think he could get it done. And I know what you're thinking. How the hell does it make sense that Diego Lopez, who beat Gene Silva, couldn't beat or knock out Volk and he had 50 minutes to do it? I know. But I feel like Gene Silva is just more wild and more unpredictable than Diego Lopez is the thing. Like, I think if Diego Lopez didn't get that knockout in that moment against Gene Silva in their UFC Noche, in their UFC Noche fight, I think Gene Silva would have ended up knocking him out, or at least beating him by decision if it happened to go another 3 rounds or 2 rounds, whatever it was. I don't want to say it's lucky. It certainly is calculated, and these guys are very high level, but I don't think that Diego is the overall. I think Diego's probably the better fighter, but who is a more dangerous finisher? It's Gene Silva. And I think the wildness and just the way he fights, I think if they book Volk against Gene Silva, I don't know. If they book him against Silva after the Evloev fight, I can't pronounce anybody's fucking names apparently right now. This is fucked. This is just, I sound like such a fucking casual right now. It's insane, but hey, whatever. Fuck it. We ball. If they book Silva after the Evloev title fight, I unfortunately think that Volk is going to get knocked out. We've seen him knocked out before. And I know it's only been twice, once to a head kick and once to literally one of the best boxers in the UFC, Ilia Topuria, but I really could see it. So I am going to, for the plot and a little bit of bias because I love Volk, I'm going to say that he fights Evloev, he fights Murphy, and then he rides off into the sunset. He retires in late 2027. He'll be getting up there in age. I don't think he's looking to push it too far. I think he's smart and he wouldn't want to tarnish his legacy and his record. But there is always that possibility that Gene Silva knocks him out. But we're gonna go with the good ending, not the bad ending here. Volkanovski rides off into the sunset, a dominant featherweight champion. After beating Diego Lopez for the belt, beating him in the rematch, he beats Evloev, and he beats Lerone Murphy. He has 3 title defenses, and he has claimed the belt twice, 2 dominant title reigns. And then Cooking with Volk gets to sail off into the sunset, baby. But hey, all right, on to the next division, the lightweight division. Justin Gaethje. You know, I love Gaethje. I don't see him holding the title very long. I mean, he's going to hold on to it for now because I don't think he's going to fight again in 2027 based on what he's saying. But I think his next fight, he loses it, honestly. Here's how I think the division is going to go, and then I'll tell you who I think is going to, beat him. And, you can probably assume who it would be based on how I'm going to explain these fights. I think end of the year, we're going to see Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett fight each other for a number one contendership fight. I think we're going to see Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan rematch for the BMF belt. And whoever has the more impressive performance and, whoever's willing to have a quicker turnaround will get the title shot against Justin Gaethje. My gut leans towards Oliveira, truthfully. I think what's going to happen is, because here's the thing, Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett tend to take long layoffs after their fights. Paddy Pimblett likes to blow up, and Ilia Topuria likes to, get a knockout and then take a whole fucking year off. Maybe he'll be more active now that he's not champ. Who knows? I don't know. Who fucking knows? Really, nobody. So I don't think it's going to be either of those guys. I think whoever wins that fight will be the rightful number one contender. But I think Arman and Oliveira, the winner of the BMF belt, is more likely to get the title shot. And I think it's going to be Oliveira. And the reason I think that is because we've seen as of late, since Oliveira lost to Arman, he's leaning more and more on his wrestling. Like, the Arman fight, there was still a good bit of it that took place on the feet. And I feel like those exchanges on the feet, allowed Arman to win that split decision. Whereas when it was on the ground, yes, Arman was able to survive, but it was just fucking barely. Some of these submissions that Oliveira had Arman in were like it's so difficult to get out. One of them, he got out because it was the end of the round. Another one he got out of is because he pulled in Oliveira's shorts, I think is what it was, or his shorts, I don't remember. He pulled shorts and was able to, help himself get a little more space to breathe and was able to stay in that fight. And I think over 5 rounds, I think Oliveira is going to be able to take 3 of them. I know Arman has been active in wrestling, but that doesn't really mean shit in the UFC octagon. This guy hasn't fought in almost a year, and his last win is to fucking Dan Hooker. That means absolutely nothing. So, because of that, I think in we'll say, I don't know, I'm thinking about a year's time by everything said and done and all settled here. I think in about a year, so we'll say early to mid 2027, we're going to see Justin Gaethje versus Oliveira 2. BMF belt versus the championship belt. It's the same division, so winner gets the other belt, either the championship belt or the BMF belt. It's a rematch. I'm sure Justin wants to avenge that loss, and he would like to have the BMF. Imagine having 2 belts and riding off into the fucking sunset. Because if Justin Gaethje somehow beats Oliveira, he's going to retire, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think Justin will retire after that fight, but it'll be on a loss. I think Oliveira is going to go out there, and he's going to submit Justin Gaethje again. His wrestling has been so dominant lately, and I just don't see it really going any other way. If Justin is able to survive, then I still think, just based on the performance we've seen in his last fight against Max Holloway, I think Oliveira is just going to dominate him on the ground regardless, whether he gets the finish or whether it's a 50-45 decision, 49-46. I don't see it going any other way. I really do believe that Oliveira would be able to reclaim the belt. And even if not, right, I don't think Justin Gaethje beats Arman. I don't think Justin Gaethje beats Ilia Topuria in a rematch. And I could see Justin Gaethje beating Paddy again, But if Paddy really relies on his wrestling more, if they were to rematch, then I also see Paddy winning that, as I thought he would win the first fight based on the wrestling. So I think pretty much regardless, like, yes, Justin Gaethje will hold on to the belt for now, and he'll probably sit out, at least for the rest of the year, just again based on what he's saying. But I think his next fight, he loses the belt no matter what. And I think after his next fight, I think he retires. He's had a long career. He's getting up there in age. And I just don't see any other avenue for it, because there's no other big contenders or big names that are in that division right now that would really warrant a title shot over, Paddy, Ilya, Arman, or Oliveira. So I think Oliveira is going to get the title early mid-2027, and Justin Gaethje will retire, and it will be very unfortunate. I think he'll be relatively vocal that it's his retirement fight, and usually when that's the case, it's like 1 foot out the door. You're not fully committed, and I'll lock it in. I'll say Justin Gaethje will survive, and it's going to be very similar to the Max Holloway fight. 50-45, just smudge decision. Oliveira plays it very smart, but Justin Gaethje also plays it smart. Like, it's not Oliveira being safe. He's trying to get the finish, but it's Justin Gaethje actually being a bit smart and improved and not just getting immediately submitted. Kind of a unfortunate outcome depending on how you look at it. Justin Gaethje is so entertaining, but at the same time, I love Charles Oliveira. It's just his last performance. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, in my opinion. But hey, next weight class, we have the 170-pound division welterweight champion, Islam Makhachev. And honestly, and same as Volk, this is the other fighter that I could see kind of riding off into the sunset. I think this next fight, which is really not that far away, versus Ian Machado Gary, I think is going to be his last fight. I think Islam Makhachev is going to break Anderson Silva's win streak record of, I think it's like 17 wins in a row. I think this fight will put him above that. I think he just tied it in his previous fight. I think he's going to break the record. He's going to have, he's going to retire as a two-time, 2 different weight class UFC champion. And I really think that's it. I don't think there's much else for Islam, because I think they're smart. I think the Nurmagomedovs are smart. They know when they could be on their way out. Like Khabib, yes, he fought a couple high-level guys, but he kind of left just as the big threats were really there, like Oliveira, or if he happened to end up getting a matchup with Tony Ferguson. I'm not saying he ran away, but he retired when there could have been adversity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then I think for Islam, I think he's, I think Ian Gary is kind of one of the few guys he could confidently beat in this division. Like, Ian Gary's smart, don't get me wrong, and I don't really see him getting finished by Islam, but I don't see him beating him. I really don't see him beating him. But what I could see Carlos Prates beating Islam Makhachev. I could see Michael Morales beating him. There's a couple other guys I'm probably not really thinking of right now, but even just those two names, I think, stand a better chance against Islam than Ian Gary. I don't think Ian Gary's going to get finished, but I don't even really, it's not like Volk where I could see, I can see 2 different avenues here, like I said previously, because I think Islam just retires after this fight, and that's it. I really think he beats Ian Gary. I don't think he gets a finish, and that's mainly because Ian Gary is a pretty smart fighter, and I think Islam is going to just get probably a dominant, relatively boring decision. Ian Gary tends to kind of let opponents come to him, and I think Islam is going to be kind of just chasing him down, and there's not going to be a lot happening. I think he's going to be pretty dominant in the wrestling. I don't think he's going to be able to get a finish. Like I said, Ian Gary is smart, but I just don't see him winning this fight, and I see Islam Makhachev retiring in the octagon and then riding off into the sunset. Like, I think it's like on an 18-fight win streak, two different division, UFC champion, dominant reign, only one loss, and that's really the only way I see it going for him. Let me know if you guys disagree. Maybe I'm not thinking of something here, but I really just think that regardless, Islam's going to retire in his next fight. But either way, going on to the middleweight division, we have Sean Strickland. And here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. I feel like it's pretty obvious what the next fight is, but then could go a couple different ways for Sean's next fight after that. I think the next fight for Sean Strickland is against Nasruddin Imavov, and I think we're going to see that towards the end of this year. It's going to be, a relatively competitive decision. I think Sean Strickland's going to do enough to get it done. As he does his split decision or unanimous decision classic, this guy's the decision merchant. So I think we're going to see that, and then could go one of two ways here, right? And it really depends. We could see the Duplessis trilogy, which would be kind of weird, but there is a merit for it, I guess, because Duplessis did beat Sean twice, and Duplessis did lose to Hamzat, but he's gotten a win since then. And so it's kind of hard to say. And then it's like, where does Hamzat come into this? Like, is he staying? Is he going up a weight class? We don't really know. I assume he's staying. He's calling for a rematch, which I don't think is warranted. Not an immediate rematch, at least. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I think Sean Strickland's going to win against Nasruddin Imavov. And then I think he's going to go against Duplessis or Chimaev, and I think he loses either of those matchups, honestly. And I know what you're thinking. Jay, how the fuck can you say that Sean Strickland's going to lose to Hamzat when he just beat Hamzat? Right? That doesn't make any fucking sense. But it was a competitive fight. He beat him by a split decision. And Sean Strickland's good, but I don't know if he can replicate that performance 100% of the time. It's so hard to say, really. And then if he goes up against Duplessis, I don't think Sean's made, major improvements in his game, where I feel like Duplessis has made these improvements in his game that we just seen in his last fight. Sean Strickland always has that same fight style. And Duplessis, yes, he has the same sort of fight style as his other fights, but, in that Usman fight, we just see major improvements from Duplessis. And so I think regardless, Sean Strickland's going to defend the belt against Nasruddin Imavov, because I really don't think that Nasruddin is going to win that fight. I mean, that would just be fucking ridiculous. It just wouldn't even make any goddamn sense to me. But sometimes the sport doesn't make sense, so who knows? So I think Sean's going to defend his belt, and then we're going to lock it in. I think he's going to lose it to Duplessis. I think he's going to lose to Dricus Duplessis for the third time. And it's hard to say where he goes from there, but that's just really how I see it going, right? I mean, yeah, we'll go with that. I think Dricus Duplessis is going to beat Sean Strickland. Probably another decision, because Sean Strickland is very fucking durable. So I really don't see a finish happening there. But I think Dricus Duplessis is going to defeat Sean Strickland via a split decision. I think it's going to be similar to the first fight. People are going to say it's a robbery. But Dricus and his just awkward style, I think, is going to get it done. But yeah, moving on to the light heavyweight division. Fucking Carlos Ulberg, man. My God, I just don't even care. You know what I mean? I've never really felt this way that badly about a fighter, except maybe Magomed Ankalaev. I just don't fucking care about this guy. He's just fucking boring. He's holding up the division, and he just pisses me off. I don't think he's that good. I really don't. I know he just knocked out Yuri, whatever. I don't think Carlos Ulberg is that good. And so there's a couple different people that I think he could fight next. And I think it depends on how these title eliminators go. Like, to me, they should book a fucking interim title fight. Because what do you mean you fought early in 2026 and you're not going to be back until 2027 because of an injury? Like, I know we're in an era where for whatever fucking reason, like, champs can just be inactive for a year. But, like, I just think that's fucking silly. Like, you know, if you made a fucking interim title fight for... what the fuck was it? Ilya Topuria for the lightweight division, right? Because he was off because of, marriage problems and he was out for a year. But Carlos Ulberg, who has an injury and will also be out for a year, we can't fucking warrant, we can't warrant an interim belt for him because he says he's going to come back and he says, no, we shouldn't have an interim belt. Like, who fucking cares what he says? The UFC should just fucking do it. But I'm going on a tangent here. Here's what I think should happen, all right? I think we should... it's so hard to say because the matchups are kind of interesting aside from the champ. You have Yuri Prochazka, Magomed Ankalaev. You have Paulo Costa. You have Khalil Roundtree. You got these four kind of big names. And then also Robert Whittaker coming up, who's like a one solid win away from either a title... challenger or title eliminator, right? So I think that we should see kind of difficult. I think this is how I'm going to go because I want to see fresh matchups, right? And I think it's too soon to do Yuri versus Roundtree. So I think we should do Yuri versus Magomed Ankalaev. And I don't know if you make that the title eliminator for sure or not because it would literally only be one fight if Yuri were to win since he had fought for Carlos Ulberg. And I don't know if that really warrants it. But Yuri's always really quick getting back in there to title shots, so I could see it. So we'll say that. We'll say Yuri versus Magomed Ankalaev. And then I think Paulo Costa versus Khalil Roundtree. And I really think it comes down to just like the better performance. And same thing I said earlier, who has the better performance and who is able to make the quicker turnaround. And whoever that may be can get the title shot against stinky fucking Carlos Ulberg, a little fucking fag. Oh my God, I hate him. Fucking pussy holding up the division. Jesus Christ. Just fucking vacate your belt like all the other fucking... Like, even fucking Jamal Hill vacated his belt, for fuck's sake, when he had an injury. Jamal goddamn Hill. And the guy you beat, Yuri Prochazka. And you don't even have the fucking, like... Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great. That division is fucking perfect. And it's totally not awful now because Carlos Ulberg is the champ and not Yuri Prochazka. Yeah, here's what I'll say. I think that... It's hard because these matchups are kind of actually hard to predict. I think... As much as I don't want to say it, I think Magomed Ankalaev will beat Yuri Prochazka. I think Yuri will be entertaining. I think Magomed will be boring. And I think that Magomed will win that fight by decision. I think in Paulo Costa versus Khalil Roundtree, I think Paulo Costa will win that fight. And then I think Paulo Costa is going to jump Magomed Ankalaev due to entertainment factor and due to star power. Paulo Costa is going to fight Carlos Ulberg. I think Carlos Ulberg... Unfortunately, I think Carlos Ulberg does win that matchup. And then I think that's going to leave Magomed Ankalaev. And I think Magomed Ankalaev is going to beat Carlos Ulberg. To me, either way, it's a fucking nightmare because I don't like Carlos and I don't like Magomed. So, either way, it's fucking awful for me. But neither here nor there, taking the bias out of it, I think we will see Magomed Ankalaev get the belt back. I think he will defeat Carlos Ulberg after Carlos Ulberg beats Paulo Costa by a competitive decision, maybe a knockout. But Costa's just got quite the fucking chin on him, so I don't know if I see a knockout happening there, but yeah, I think Magomed Ankalaev in like late 2027 will get the belt back. He will defeat Carlos Ulberg by a unanimous decision. We'll say 48-47. Carlos Ulberg makes it competitive, but ultimately he loses his belt. And I will be happy that he loses his belt, but I will also be annoyed because I fucking hate Magomed. I hate Magomed Ankalaev as well. Boring cunts. Just boring-ass motherfuckers. Anyway, enough of the rants. We're going into the final division here that we're predicting, the heavyweight division. And the current champ, even though it doesn't feel like it, is Tom Aspinall. The next fight that's going to happen is an obvious one. Ciryl Gane versus Tom Aspinall. And this is a real toss-up, right? Like, it's so hard to say. I feel like, and I wouldn't have thought this before, but it's just based off the recent performances. I think Ciryl Gane will beat Tom Aspinall in his return. I think it comes down to one thing mainly, and it's the activity and the getting adjusted to being in the octagon again. Like Tom Aspinall, being out for a year with an eye injury and having to readjust to training and fighting again. Tom Aspinall's a great fighter, but Gane's been active. He's been in there. And so, and especially after seeing the knockout against Pereira, he's not afraid of somebody who has hands, who has, heavy knockout power. And we know that especially from him fighting Tom Aspinall. And arguably, if we're going off damage-based scoring, arguably winning the first round against Tom Aspinall. I mean, we don't know for sure how the remainder of that round would go because I think there was like a minute or so left. But, yeah, I think, unfortunately, Tom Aspinall will get knocked out by Ciryl Gane. And that just doesn't even sound like me, but because I love Tom Aspinall, and I've been rooting for him, and I picked him in the first fight against Ciryl Gane. But now that we've gotten a little taste of that fight, and we've seen how it went, and all of a sudden it wasn't super dominant, and no, Tom wasn't getting his ass kicked, but he certainly wasn't dominating the fight like we thought he was going to. And after this recent performance that Gane has had, and the whole injury thing, I think, I hate to say it, but I think Gane knocks out Tom Aspinall, and I think he gets the belt. I think he becomes the undisputed champion of the heavyweight division. And, it just sounds like a fucking nightmare to me. But, a lot of the time with my picks and what I think is going to happen, like, it's just like the worst case outcome, the worst case scenario I find is usually what happens to me. Or just what happens in the sport, not to me, sorry. So, part of that certainly influences some of my picks and decisions here. But, yeah, Ciryl Gane, I think this year, towards the end of the year, we'll say on like the MSG or the final numbered event of the year in December, I think Ciryl Gane will knock out Tom Aspinall, and he will be the undisputed champion of the heavyweight division. Yeah, that sounds fucking awful. But, hey, let me know what you guys think. Kind of wanted to do a different style video. Like I said, I wanted to break down and predict the downfall of every current UFC champion. I didn't get into the women's division because personally, I just couldn't give a fuck less. I'm not sexist, but I just don't care. It doesn't feel like there's any stakes. It doesn't feel like there's anything at, it just doesn't feel like it's worthwhile breaking down. But hey, let me know what you guys thought of the video. Let me know how you guys think the current UFC champs will lose their belt. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.